Thank you. Thank you, Christian, Stephanie, Monica, and everyone for coming. It's always a pleasure to see new faces, but also old faces that we've been seeing that were new in the previous conference. So thank you, everyone, for coming. My name is Ricardo. I'm the current Xojo web framework maintainer. Since the last time we met here in Germany, we've been doing a couple of improvements, hopefully. We've had generic support for drag and drop. You can create brand new kind of web applications, like, for example, a Kanban. This is an example that we are including in the IDE examples. We are adding also, we have another example to show more detailed examples on drag and drop when you are having a different type of drag items, for example. We've been adding support for adding CSS classes from Bootstrap. If you go to the Advanced tab on the IDE inspector, you can add now Bootstrap CSS class names, for example. Or if you are adding, you know how to add CSS styles on your HTML header, you can now use those CSS class names directly on the IDE inspector. This is how it looks like in the preview. This is in the browser. We are using the shadow CSS class name, the regular one, or we can use the larger one, whatever you want. It's really comfortable to use. And you can also add it programmatically using just code. If you know how the class name is called, you can just add it as well. Now, WebList Box has been improved. We've been adding, I don't know if you can see it properly with this screen, but here you can have columns that include a little checkbox, or columns that can be used for editing the cell, the text that contains that cell using a text field or a text area. It will be giving you the events, the action event to react to those changes. And you can even initiate an edit directly from a button. For example, you can say, hey, let the user edit the cell on the first row and the first column using code. We've also added a way to reorder WebList Box rows. And all this is to be able to match more and more what we have on the desktop listbox. We've been adding more consistency between the platforms. Style controls by state as well. You can have now different states, different styles depending on the state of that control. For example, if you move the mouse around a control, you can have a different background style, for example. Let me demonstrate that in a second. For example, if you have a web rectangle, you can add the open event, for example, and let's say me style. In the hover state, I want to have a different background color, like, for example, color red. And when the user pressed on that control, I want the background color to be an IMET color, for example, the success. And yeah, when you run the project and you move the mouse around, without having to rely on any trip to the backend server, all this is going to happen really quickly on the browser. And you can even add transitions to make the style look even nicer. For example, if you add a transition on the background color, let's say 250 milliseconds, it's a little nice effect. Okay, we've been adding new controls as well. Web color picker, web switch, web barcode, and web user authentication. You will love this one, William. Okay, the web color picker has the same API that we have on desktop color picker. You can set the opacity or disable the alpha channel if you don't want it. And you can also add a prompt, which is the fancy name of the title, but we wanted to be consistent with the desktop color picker, so it's called prompt. Yeah, pretty useful. We've also added a web switch, again, to be consistent with other targets we have on iOS and Android. We also have it on web application as well. Now, not everybody loves the switch control, but if you're creating a web mobile application, people will be used to have a switch control instead of a web checkbox. But the API is exactly the same as the web checkbox. And web barcode. Now, we've used to be able to generate barcodes already in the web framework, but we've added support for scanning barcodes. If you have your mobile phone with you, you can scan this barcode demo. Okay, so you should be able to see a little application where you can press on the scan barcode. It will ask you permission to use the camera of the mobile phone. And yeah, you should be able to read it. Oh. Oh. Probably the screen is not the best. Okay, you can also change the camera that's going to be used. Okay, you can use a frontal camera or the back camera, and it will be remembered in the choice, so you don't have to be selecting the camera all the time. And it's not going to use a cookie, so you don't have to care about adding more privacy statements on your GDPR compliance copywriting, because we are using the local storage of the phone. If you still have the application, not only QR codes are supported, you can read also Aztec codes. Data matrix as well. Depending on the kind of barcode, it's going to read it faster or slower. I find this one a little bit slower than the PDF 417 barcode style. Yeah, we support a lot of formats. We are using the same library that Christian is using on his plugins, but this is a JavaScript port for web browsers. Okay, so web user authentication. William has been talking about this yesterday. It's really hard to secure data or an application in this case, because we cannot control the passwords and the users are using. We can guide them to use a really long password, uppercase, lowercase, letters, numbers, special characters. But even if they're using a really good password, we cannot control if they will be reusing the same password from the intranet we are working on Facebook or on TikTok. We don't know. And more importantly, are we storing that password securely? Hopefully. If we compare passwords and passkeys, we see that what the user is going to be entering is an arbitrary string that should be secure, but the user is in charge of generating that string, and it has to be secure. The server will have, it has the responsibility to store that arbitrary string in a secure manner, like for example using a strong hashing algorithm. But it's not always happening, because I still get error messages when I'm creating an account on a website. I'm still seeing errors saying that I cannot enter special characters on my password, and that's scary. Another problem with passwords is they can be reused, as I said. They can be using the same password on different applications. That makes the password system not resistant to breaches, because if a hacker managed to see the real password, because the application is not storing a really secure hash, they will be able to use that password on another website using the username. It's possible to receive a phishing attack when we are using password. Like, for example, it's pretty common to receive an SMS or an email, supposedly from the bank, for example, saying that unless we enter our credentials, we are going to be charged by 5,000 euros. I don't know, it's pretty common. On the other side, we have passkeys. The user doesn't have to enter anything anymore. Everything is going to be happening automatically and managed by the operating system and the browser. The user only has to give the browser permission to generate the passkey or to use that passkey. The server, in this case, not going to be able to store the private key, for example, insecurely, because the server or even Xojo is not going to be able to see the private key at all. The passkey is not able to be reused across websites because part of the passkey is the domain name. So that makes also phishing attacks really hard for attackers, because it doesn't matter if the website really looks like the bank we use, because the browser we are using is not going to find any passkey to be used on that domain. we support both workflows, register for creating new passkeys, and authenticate to use that passkey that we've been creating. The API is really easy as well. And we have only two methods, register and authenticate to initiate the ceremonies, and only 4 events, registration succeeded, authentication succeeded, which are straightforward, error that could be happening on the registration or authentication, and another special event called credential requested event that's only happening during the authentication event. Now, when we create a new passkey, we will receive the registration succeeded event, and we will receive a web authentication credential object, and that's the only thing that we will have to store into the database. It contains the credential ID, just a string, could be as long as needs the public key, display name, and authentication attempts. Authentication attempts is going to be an incremental integer just to detect if the authentication device has been compromised or cloned. But generally speaking, we just have to store the data that the framework is giving us. Now, this is an example of how passkey works in practice, more or less, for the authentication ceremony. When we press on the authenticate with a passkey, the web server is going to send to the browser an authentication request over the internet, and then locally, the browser is going to ask the user if he wants to authenticate with that web application. If the user agrees, it's going to touch the Touch ID or use the Face ID. That's the only place where we are going to use biometrics. They won't go anywhere. Xojo is not even able to see that biometric because it's happening between the browser and the operating system. It will never touch the JavaScript framework. And then if we agree, the browser is going to ask the operating system to do a secure digital signature, and it is going to send it back to the web server, sign it. And now the web server will have to verify that the format is fine, the challenge is still there and hasn't changed, the counter is being incremented, the digital signature is fine, and more things like securing that we are not receiving a denial of service attack or things like that. So it's going to take care of everything. If everything looks okay, then we are going to receive the authentication succeeded event, and we can redirect the user to the dashboard, for example. We support the two main algorithms that are required to be passkey compliant, ES255, 56, RS as well. In order to support this, we had to add ES256 verify signature, and while we were there, we also had a way to sign requests using that algorithm. And this is really useful for interacting with Apple web APIs, like, for example, App Store Connect that Javier is already using, or Apple Music API, Weather API. They are using this kind of signatures for creating the JSON web tokens. We have an example included.
Ricardo, is it only Apple, or is it?
No, you can use it on any website that requires that algorithm, but it's mainly used with Apple. It wasn't possible to communicate with Apple APIs before this new method. Okay, so we have passkeys for web example. We will explore the code in a second, but I want to show you how it works. Okay, we have two buttons. Register, for example, Ricardo@Xojo.com. And when I press on register, what's going to happen, I'm going to call the web user authentication register method. And this is going to let the browser ask the operating system to show this model, asking me if I really want to create a new passkey on this website. It's already, as part of the passkey, it's going to be my username. In this case, it's an email, but it could be anything that makes sense in your web application. And the only thing I have to do is to put my finger on my Touch ID, and that's it. This is an example dashboard. Now, in order to log in, I don't have to enter my email anymore, because as I said, the email is part of the passkey, the same as the domain. So whenever I enter a domain that has a passkey in my computer, I will be able to use that passkey. And the only thing I have to do again is use Touch ID or the Face ID. I can also have more than one passkey for a given website. For example, test@xojo.com. I want to create it. Okay, so now I have two different passkeys. I can select the one that I want. Or if I have an USB key, and a special USB key for using this FIDO2 access, we could click on more options and use that security key, for example. Or if I'm using a shared laptop, I can go to Jeff's laptop and use a QR code to log in securely on his laptop, but the browser won't be able to store that password or that passkey on his laptop. I can just log out and it will be secure. This is the passwords application. If I filter by the domain name, as you can see, the website is part of the passkey, in this case, localhost, and the username as well. But not even the user is going to be able to see the private key. It's not going to be able to share it with an attacker website, because not even the user is able to see the private key. Okay. On the way, let me also show okay. So this authentication succeeded, credential request and registration succeeded. So you can see what happens when another test, xojo.com. When I click on register and place my finger, okay, I'm going to receive this registration succeeded event with the user ID. This I've generated it using a UUID 4 but it can be anything that makes any sense in your web application. And the credential object that I've been talking about has the authentication attempts, the display name, the passkey ID, and the public key. And that's what you have to store in your database. Then, when you click on login, for example, with the latest one, I'm going to receive this credential requested event because the framework, the web server, already received the authentication from the browser. And it needs this credential to verify that the authentication that we are using, the authentication attempt is the same as 0, but it has a new number, an incremented number, just to detect that we didn't receive an authentication request using a clone device, for example. It's going to use all this for verify that the format is fine. Once everything is fine, it will then display it will fire the authentication succeeded event. And then we will receive as a parameter the new authentication attempts that we have to store into the database. It can be the same number if we are using a Safari, for example, but it can be, it used to be an incremented number depending on the device. For example, a YubiKey or Google Chrome will be giving us a new number like 1, 2, 3, or a timestamp, for example. In this example, we are using just a in-memory dictionary, but you can use anything that you want, like, for example, a Postgres database or MySQL, doesn't matter. Yeah, I've wrote a lot about this in the blog post. By the way, we have a blog in Xojo. We also have a YouTube channel that apparently not everybody knows. Yeah, apart from what we've been working on during the latest releases, we want to continue improving, of course. We want to improve the performance, as always. In order to do that, we've recently turned this send event in batches experimental feature on by default. And it improves performance. So let's say you, for example, have 100 of controls in your web page, and each of them have the shown event implemented. Whenever the page is being shown, it's going to be sending 100 of requests from the browser to the server. What this option does is pack all them together and only send one request. As a side effect, the events arrive in order. I don't know if it's happened to you that you are showing the typical login box with a username, password, and a login button. If the user really fills the fields really fast and then press the button to login, the web button press event could maybe arrive before the password text change event. And that's going to create a situation where the user entered the password correctly, but the server doesn't know it yet. So if you use this option, we will guarantee that the events are arriving in order. Another thing that we've been adding is lazy loading dependencies. We think that it didn't make too much sense to send the whole mapping library if you are not using it, or the chart library. Okay? And also, if you are using a third-party library that has a lot of controls, like Graffiti, the Web SDK also supports lazy loading. We've finally reached a huge milestone for us, which is being able to serve, at least on this computer, it depends on the server. We've been doing the same benchmark between versions, and this is the first time we managed to serve more than 10,000 requests per second. It's about 11,000 requests per second.
I just want to say, when we first built the web framework, in our early testing, we were doing about 300 requests per second, compared to 10,000.
I've tested on my laptop, and on Web 1, I've been able to serve around 70 requests per second. Last time I came here to Germany, I've announced that we were about 10,000 requests per second, but we were between 8,000 and 9,000 requests per second. And remember, this is happening only on one app instance. Normally, if you publish your application on Xojo Cloud, you will have maybe 2 instances, and the server is going to do the load balance, so you could be getting even better results than on my laptop, of course. Accessibility is on the roadmap as well, not only because we want to be nice, but because it is the law. Not only in Europe, but also in the United States, they are going to enforce web applications to be accessible by law. We don't want you to lose any contract because the web application you are creating is not accessible for your users. Responsive designs. We don't even have a screen yet. We've been testing really different ways to do this. There are currently ways to create responsive designs, like, for example, using a flex layout, or I don't know, just being able to be using tricks to create responsive designs. But we really want to have a way to show the IDE preview and be able to create a nice layout that works fine on desktop and mobiles as well. It's on the roadmap. More styling tools. Now that we have CSS class names and we have different styles for different states, we could even bring back the web style editor, for example. Or maybe we could be integrating the web styler, which is an external application to create bootstrap themes into the IDE. Another thing that we want to do is to continue improving the web map viewer. It's pretty nice at the moment. We've migrated from Google Maps to MapLibre library, which is really nice. It uses vector graphics, and you can already use icons and show some drawing, a route from one point to another. But we want to improve that, adding drawing capabilities like I don't know, showing text or paths, or if you are creating an application for agriculture, you should be able to draw a rectangle on the field, for example. Heat maps as well. And finally, SEO. We want to be your web applications to be search engine friendly. We've been adding capability to display any web page on any URL, and we also created a way. We've been adding options on the web label, for example, to to be able to define a label as a heading, which matters a lot if you are creating a SEO-friendly web application. Again, we want to be able to offer a client that is working on the real estate market, for example, to be able to create a web application that is a property listing that is SEO-friendly, for example. Let me show you quickly how that works. Okay, so this is the default web page. Okay, this is the option we've been added. HTML element by default is a paragraph, but now you can use a heading, for example, the H1, for example. And it will also update the preview. Yeah, and let's add another web page. Let's say it's the testing web page. And not found web page. Sad face. Okay, now that we have 3 templates, we could add the handle URL event, and we are going to do something really easy, which is just detecting the path. In the case of the default path, the root path, we are not going to do anything. We are going just to return false. But if we are receiving a request from the test path, we will be showing the test web page, return true, because we are handling the request. Otherwise, not found web page, so show. That's it. If we run this example, okay, this is the default web page. We are not doing anything special there. Test. We will be showing the test web page directly. And if we inspect the code, you can see this is the heading. We are not using a paragraph anymore or a label. It's a heading which will make Google more happier.
It looks like it creates a session too.
Yeah, it's creating a session, and people have been talking about in the forum about that. We will probably have to change that in order to not break previous projects that were creating a web session during the handle URL event. So we will have to probably ask the user to create a session before displaying the website. But the goal is not creating a session. The goal is being able to have SEO-friendly URLs and websites. Yeah, if we type any wrong URL, we will be able to show the not found web page, for example. Pretty cool. Yeah, I think that's it. Anybody has any question? Yes.
You just talked about SEO.
Yeah.
But do we know what the influence on that will be by using AI nowadays as a search engine? Because I know it influences Google, but if you use Gemini or ChatGPT, do we know what the influence will be?
It's going to be also helpful for AI browsers as well. Yeah, AI searches is going to take benefit if they support JavaScript. We have the SEO in the roadmap, even if when we add this already, because we want to continue working on that. For example, in order to display that test web page, the web framework is going to need the browser to support JavaScript, and that's something that we really want to improve. If you enter the test URL, you should be able to see the headings and everything without even needing JavaScript, and that will help also AI and SEO. More questions? Yeah.
Regarding the passkey authentication, what's your opinion on two-factor authentication? Is it more secure than passkey, or is passkey more secure?
There are different things. You can use passkey as a main login way to authenticate to your website, or you can use username and password and then require passkey as a second factor authentication, for example. It's going to be more secure. Of course, more layers of security is going to be more secure. But yeah, you will have to find the balance between being secure and comfortable for the user. And in the blog post I've shared, I've talked even more ways to use web user authentication for other things, like creating a really private forum, for example, that doesn't even need a username. You can just use a passkey, which is really random, and it's only stored on your computer or your authentication device. The only thing is using that way of authentication without email or username or anything. If you lose the passkey, you are obviously going to lose your account. But it's a way to create a secure authentication method on a really private web kind of application, for example. Yeah.
I've seen websites where you go to log in and it actually sends a message to your phone. Like you're on your computer,
Yeah.
a message comes to your phone and you're authenticating from your phone.
It's another second factor of authentication as well.
Right. Well, I was thinking, in a Xojo web app, would there be a way to do that? So
Yeah, sure. If you have an SMS provider, when you log in using username and password or
send a URL to that, through SMS.
Yeah, you send a request and after you have a callback URL, and then when you receive that request, you could authenticate the user.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Still pretty much a way of just drilling down to see if it's really you.
Right.
And really, your fingerprint should be the ultimate.
Right, but you might be on a computer that isn't your computer where you can't biometric authenticate. So
That's
if
true.
you can send it to a device that you can biometrically authenticate on.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just as an information, because I have to use it right now. The job agencies, they seem to think that two-factor is more secure than passkey. They prefer it. They have got different security levels, what you can do to get your information or your load balance or something else. And the highest is that you have to authenticate with your papers. At last we know this, it's a Bund ID court in Germany, is that you have to authenticate using your papers. The passkey is supported, yes, but it's not seen as very secure. And the second point is, as an example, we did this with a console application, emulating a CGI. So we had this approach when somebody lost his password. So you got an email, the email gave you a link to our own webpage again. And on this webpage, you can go on, and this is the same approach to use this, that you can take another device, a second factor.
Yeah.
And this code you could really use in through your web. Because we managed to use the same code that we use in the console application we used in the web API 1.
Yeah, still we think that passkeys are really secure than any workflow that you might imagine or a specific government wants to enforce. Passkeys has been developed by a lot of big companies, and they've been talking together and they came up with a really secure framework to authenticate. I think it's going to be the future. Unfortunately, at the moment I only have 11 passkeys, and I have over 400 passwords, different passwords on my password application. But yeah, it's going to grow and grow. It's nice that Xojo already have that feature, and it's super easy. If you want to implement it in Web 1, it's going to be a little bit
No,
harder.
we won't do that anymore in Web 1, API 1.
You showed us an example when you have 2 logins with your thing. What would be a good scenario for shared workspaces where one computer is being used by like 5 people and trying to give the computer's pin, and everybody knows computer's pin because it's written on a piece of paper attached to the monitor.
Yeah.
So how do you handle multi-user where it's the same hardware, but it's an office computer which actually gets used by 5 people? I actually care who did what.
Yeah. Let me show the same sample. In that case, when you press on login, imagine I don't have any passkey stored in this computer. If you press on more options, you have to scan the QR code. So every user is going to use his device as a passkey authentication device, or they can use a security key. The computer is shared, but the authentication device, you have to own it in order to prove that you can log into it.
Can you have the laptop's camera because the QR code tattooed on the forehead?
And this works when you start your initial session or when you want to relevate.
Yeah, this depends on the website you are creating. I'm using web user authentication here to log in, but it could be just before doing a risky operation like deleting your account or changing your email. You can, for example, require the username and password and only use a passkey as a second factor authentication method for risky action, for example.
So Ricardo,
Yeah.
so I could use this in the situation I was talking about earlier, where I go to use someone else's computer, right? And when I get to the screen, I can just select that, and I don't have to do anything extra. I can just authenticate right from my phone.
If you are using the Apple ecosystem, as soon as you create a passkey on your computer, it's going to be able. It's going to be synchronized with your mobile.
That's why I think your scenario is I done my first login on my laptop, then I go in a shared environment and I can use it.
Yeah.
The scenario was trying to explain it. We are in a shared. The first login is on a shared computer.
It was a registration with a second device.
Yeah, you can register using your
To register with your phone.
Yeah.
That's a solution. Yeah.
But can you do it? Can you initiate the registration on your laptop and then store the passkey in the phone?
I don't think so. Yeah. Let me try that. But yeah, it will be stored in that laptop. but then you can maybe you can remove it, or in that case, if you really want to use a shared computer and register and authenticate using an authentication device, what I recommend is using a security USB, for example.
Do you already have a solution to fix the denial of service?
Sorry?
Do you already have a solution to fix the denial of service attack that was discovered yesterday?
Yeah, we've been working on it already, and we will be publishing on 1.2 release probably Monday, Tuesday.
And I'd actually like that in the issue so that everyone is allowed to know.
It's already fixed. We have to do a healthy check to ensure everything is working fine, and we will share it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's already fixed. Yeah.
Would it be possible to save it to one passport or something else?
Yeah, one password supports passkeys as well, or Google Chrome, for example. If you are using Linux, and this works on macOS, iOS, Android, Windows, and Linux. It's problematic there, but you can still use Google Chrome as an authentication device as well, for example.
Then it will be available on all the devices using this app.
Yeah. More questions? We are also, by the way, we are also working on including this on desktop application.
So Ricardo, in the example that I brought up earlier, you would have to have created your registration account from your phone.
Or in the laptop, yeah.
Oh, so if I created on my laptop, then I go to someone else's laptop.
Yeah, you will be able, if you create your account using your laptop and you are using Apple, for example, or
The passkeys
Android.
are shared between the
Yeah,
devices.
yeah, it's
Okay.
automatically shared between your devices. Okay. Thank you. If you have any question about this or any other web questions, you can just send me a message over the forum or the email. I'm always happy to reply.